you are the long-awaited transformation in the banking system that has now come to pass. The global financial industry has depended on SWIFT, a communications network that has been in operation for 50 years and is in charge of the daily transfer of trillions of dollars across international borders for decades. However, the system in which 10 of them were born and where they are featured on television is currently being officially contested. At this point, they are 3, 3, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10. Sexier, as per the data that has been, the transition from SWIFT to the XRP ledger has already started in the background, according to high-level leaks from JP Morgan and HSBC. We are not speculating or making theories. Instead, we are seeing the start of a total transformation in the way that money is moved throughout the globe. The conservative target price for this migration transaction is $750 per XRP. This figure is derived from the mathematics of international finance rather than from exaggeration. The $5 trillion daily cross-border movement just cannot be effectively maintained on tracks that are no longer in use, and XRP is uniquely positioned to assume this mandate. The evidence is compelling despite the fact that it has been meticulously kept hidden from the public. The only viable rail for the next settlement system is XRP, an audio leak from a meeting that JP Morgan attended to discuss blockchain strategy claims that although the audio has been purposefully muted to hide the origins, it is still understandable to insiders. Recent press announcements from HSBC are currently being reinterpreted by experts as confirmation of the active cooperation they have with Riplet. These news releases are currently being reinterpreted from their initial meaning, which many people disregarded as being generic updates on blockchain progress. Together, the leaks, press releases, and insider information suggest that there is a concerted effort going on behind the scenes. Financial institutions are secretly accumulating XRP in preparation for a mass migration. The addition of visual proof strengthens this story even more. Therefore, simply imagine a picture of the SWIFT logo with a big red X overlaid on it, directly next to the pulsing, brilliantly flashing XRP logo, signifying the start of a new era in the financial industry. This is not merely a sign. In reality, it is the outward manifestation of a systemic change that will affect every bank, Treasury Department, and multinational corporation worldwide. In actuality, it is impossible to overstate the importance. SWIFT is ineffective, slow, and constrictive, even though it has dominated international finance for 50 years. However, XRP offers quick settlement with almost non-existent fees, as well as the freedom to trade different currencies without any discernible hiccups. The banks are taking decisive, covert, and calculated action without waiting for public recognition or regulatory clearance. Instead, they are acting. It is crucial to understand the conspiracy element. The globe would probably experience tremendous panic if these groups announced this change in public. Consider the financial turmoil that would result if the markets knew that SWIFT was losing support overnight from the most reputable organizations in the world. The currency would become more volatile. The markets were about to tumble. Panic would set up among depositors. Alternatively, the banks are developing a covert accumulating approach. To put themselves in a position to make the switch at the ideal moment, they are quietly striving to buy XRP. Should this happen, the network effect will start right away. There will be a rush to integrate from every single multinational corporation, financial institution, and treasury desk, creating a feedback cycle that will take XRP to previously unthinkable heights. The decision to establish the target price at $750 was not made at random. This is the absolute minimum valuation needed to properly manage the $5 trillion in daily international cross-border transactions on the XRP ledger. This scenario has been modeled by experts who have emphasized that it is mathematically certain and not wishful thinking. To be completely honest, in addition to its speed, scalability, and stability, XRP's liquidity pools make it the only asset that can handle flows of this size without endangering the system. Each and every token, transaction, and XRP held by banks adds to a network effect that grows every day, sending prices into an exponentially higher upward pressure. Those who work in the financial industry use the term banking migration multiplier. Adoption rises more quickly as the number of banks integrating increases. As the price keeps rising, the cycle keeps repeating itself. History may teach us that innovative concepts in the financial industry are rarely recognized by the public before being put into practice. XRP is about to replace the SWIFT system itself, which is totally out of date. much like SWIFT has replaced wire transfers and TX. But this time, it's speed that makes a difference. With the help of Riplet, transactions that used to take days to complete across international borders can now be resolved in a matter of seconds, quickly with incredibly low fees. This is the reason behind-the-scenes measures are being made by banking companies like HSBC and JP Morgan. They understand that adopting XRP offers benefits beyond financial savings. To be honest, it's a matter of survival. Financial institutions that don't take risk into account run the risk of falling behind in a constantly changing environment. In fact, thinking about the psychological effects of this shift is really intriguing. Retail traders may hurry because of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, to buy XRP as word of the cryptocurrency gets out. However, the real market movers, institutional investors, are already acting right away. Hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, and pension funds are analyzing liquidity curves, transaction velocity, and XRP reserve strategies to ensure they are well positioned for the inevitable wave of adoption. There is no avoiding the cascade effect. Based on the daily global transaction volumes that these institutions oversee, the $750 price target is a cautious estimate that should be considered a floor rather than a ceiling. Adoption is further accelerated when more institutions invest, pricing pressure increases, network liquidity rises, and public awareness grows. The goal price is a floor rather than a ceiling. The changeover also represents a change in the geopolitical landscape. SWIFT has operated under a centralized structure run by a small number of nations since its founding. However, XRP is neutral, decentralized, and unaffected by the usual political power that is at its disposal. Upon transferring to the XRP ledger, these investment firms are not only increasing their productivity, but they are also shielding their clients and themselves from the dangers of using centralized middlemen. By giving institutions more authority, more transparency, and, as you may already know, faster settlement times, this has the potential to drastically change the balance of global finance, all the while reducing expenses significantly. The last and most pressing call to action is that the banks are buying. Does that not apply? The like button should be destroyed. Join the campaign by leaving a comment with the hashtag #DumpFast and subscribing. It is impossible to tell when SWIFT will give way to XRP. Instead, it is taking place in a premeditated and covert way at this very moment. Evidence of a seismic shift is evident in every visual cue, verbal disclosure, and market tremor.